Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Swallowed Star 2 episode number 44 based on novel. So let's start. Die? In the Heart Demon Kite, the Elder of the Heart Eye is in charge, the 12 eternal true gods are in charge, and they command tens of thousands of void true gods. This is not an ordinary super-large mechanical secret treasure, but one of the secret treasures customized by the God King who founded the Heart Shadow sect according to the God King level inheritance, 6 absolutes of destruction. The threshold for control is extremely high. Now, in the entire Xinjiang sect, apart from the Elder Xinjiang who appears on the surface, only Qiu Yi in secret can control the secret treasure of the sect. The secret treasure of the town is to completely unite the power of all drivers. Even the will of the mind is united. Accompanied by a shrill cry, the Elder Heart and Eyes led all his subordinates, united their wills, and launched an attack. Elder Xinjiang is very confident. He himself has reached the level of ordinary Chaos Realm will, and he has mastered the secret treasure of the sect, the Heart Demon Kite. With his mind and heart in harmony, the burst of will attack can be called the level of top Chaos will. The will attack is enough to hurt Luo He, greatly reduce his strength, and then completely suppress him in one fell swoop. Elder Xinjiang did not expect that the will secret technique could kill Luo Feng. In fact, apart from the art of columns, in a normal collision of wills, unless the difference in wills is ridiculously large, at most the wills will be damaged and the performance of strength will be affected. It was very rare on the origin continent that the enemy would die after just one look. The difference was ridiculous. Just like Luo Feng's God King level will at this moment, targeting the disciples of the Heart Shadow sect, even without the legend technique, 99% of them would die after just one look. Only Elder Xinjiang, Qiu Yi, the sect master, and no more than 10 others could survive. Bang! Luo Feng felt that his will was under attack and was a little surprised. He didn't intend to use too strong a willpower. After all, the Elder Xinjiang died with just one look. This scene was too terrifying. I'm afraid it will immediately attract the attention of the gods and kings of Yu and Shi. I am already very close to the chaos state. If I endure for a while longer, I will reach the chaos state. It is relatively normal for the chaos realm to display the God King level will. After all, there are still some chaos lords who can do it. And at that time, your ability to save your life will be greatly improved, and your ability to deal with risks will be greatly improved. I have always intended to control my strength to be stronger than the strongest eternal true god of Yu country. I never thought that you would take the initiative to attack. Luo Feng was helpless. Bang! This extremely ferocious will attack made all the living beings in the Heart Demon Kite, whether it was the Elder of the Heart Eyes, the other eternal true gods, or tens of thousands of void true gods, all of them felt as if their consciousness was about to be torn apart, and they were all in great pain. Not good. The Heart Demon Kite that had originally pounced out suddenly retreated. Fortunately, this was just a counter-injury, and they were still able to remain somewhat conscious. This Luo, he should possess the will of the peak of chaos. His secret art of will is also extraordinary. Elder Xinjiang immediately sent the message. 6 shadow killing formation, everyone retreat. Luo, his will is too terrifying. What? The 6 super large mechanical secret treasures that formed the 6 shadow killing formation were all a little confused. They had set up the formation to trap Lord Luo, so why did they suddenly retreat? Since you have noticed the strength of my will, show it a little. Luo Feng had to be restrained in all aspects when taking action. No matter which aspect of his divine body or will was unleashed, it would be enough to sweep across the Xinjiang sect and attract the attention of the ancient god kings. On the bright side, some powerful being might cultivate Luo Feng. If we think of the worst, killing, enslavement and control are all possibilities. Luo Feng didn't want to leave his fate to the conscience of a certain god king. My master, Zhuoshanke, also told me to be patient and low-key, as the waters in the origin continent are too deep. Luo Feng swung out the God King level knife embryo, blood shadow knife, in his hand, and a dazzling knife light flashed, just like a butcher cutting an ox, cutting through the void, cutting through everything, and also cutting towards the Heart Demon Kite that was retreating violently. When this knife cut the heart demon kite, Luo Feng immediately felt the heart demon kite's tenacity. The toughness of this heart demon kite is comparable to Chaos Realm weapons and secret treasures. Luo Feng's blade couldn't cut it either. But there was energy wave that penetrated, and there was also a will like the light of a knife, cutting into the heart demon kite. The wills of all the living beings within the heart demon kite united as one, and they were struck hard by the sword of the mind's will. This move is the first Chaos Realm sword technique Luo Feng has learned, refining the heart. However, in the past 5 epochs, this move of refining the heart has evolved into multiple versions. Now, this heart-refining knife integrates 6 Chaos Realm moves into one, and naturally integrates the will secret method that Luo Feng comprehended from the Robbery Beast map. 5 epochs ago, Luo Feng was a God King level will. At that time, he only comprehended a small part of the 3000 Void Robbery Beast map. As he gradually comprehended, Luo Feng's understanding continued to accumulate, especially after viewing the complete diagram of the Calamity Beast. While his will was slowly improving, Luo Feng also realized a set of will secret techniques from the diagram of the Calamity Beast. This set of secret techniques of willpower only has 3 moves for now. The first move is to integrate it into the refining the heart sword move, which is intended to both destroy the enemy's divine body and cut open the enemy's mind. The heart demon kite was chopped and flew backwards. The controller inside felt that his spiritual will was hit again and was in great pain. Fortunately, Luo Feng only used a trace of his will to greatly restrain the power, so they only felt pain. This knife cut through the chaos, swept past the heart demon kite, and also swept past the 6 shadow killing formation. The 6 shadow killing formation is formed by 6 super-large mechanical secret treasures. These ordinary super-large mechanical secret treasures cannot achieve the unity of mind and will. The mental will of the commander is responsible for controlling the mechanical secret treasures. Luo Feng only had a wisp of will, and its power was greatly restricted. Moreover, it was a secret will technique he created himself. With this sword that could refine the mind, 5 of the commanders of the 6 super-large mechanical treasures immediately lost their wills and fell into coma. Only one of them was in so much pain that he barely managed to stay awake and immediately fled in panic. Just a brilliant cut. The heart demon kite retreated violently, and the 6 shadow killing formation collapsed. 1 super-large mechanical secret treasure escaped, and the other 5 super-large mechanical secret treasures were directly split by the sword light. When the commander fell into a coma, the defensive ability of this super-large mechanical secret treasure was greatly weakened and it was easily broken apart. Not good, run away. These 5 collapsed super-large mechanical secret treasures have their benefits even though their minds and wills are not unified. The commander's consciousness controls the entire secret treasure. After being stabbed, he fell into a coma. These ordinary members remained conscious and they fled in all directions in fear. Call. Luo Feng waved his hand and collected the 5 fallen and cracked super-large mechanical treasures. How is this possible? The leader of Xinjiang's sect and the 18 elders gathered together. They looked at the battle scene with shock and anger. He has the will at the peak of the Chaos Realm. Under the secret technique of will, the 6 shadow killing formation can't withstand it at all. Elder Xinjiang's face was solemn. Even if the sect's secret treasure, the heart demon kite, united with its mind and will, it can't defeat him. There is such a strong will in the mind. The eternal true God possesses the will of the peak of the Chaos Realm. Which powerful force cultivated him? They never thought that Luo Feng would have the will of a God King. In the continent of origin, across a large level, there are many eternal true gods who possess the will of Chaos Realm. Lord Blood Cloud, Mo Lixiao, Du Hu, and all of them have the threshold will of Chaos Realm. Elder Xinjiang and Qiu Yi practiced the inheritance of the God King level and also had the will of the ordinary Chaos Realm. In the 2 ancient countries, there are also some elite eternal true gods cultivated by some major forces, who have reached the peak of the Chaos Realm. But across 2 levels, the eternal true God with the God King level will is only occasionally seen in the origin continent. The Great Destruction Array is a formation diagram that was personally refined by the God King. 360 eternal true gods cooperated with the formation diagram, and their strength and minds were united. This is the ultimate move of our Heart Shadow sect. The sect leader and the 18 elders remained confident. The Great Destruction Array is the most powerful method that the Heart Shadow sect can use now. Under such a decisive formation, no eternal true God can resist. Too strong. The cry of this heart demon kite is an attack of will. It pounced forward, but suddenly retreated violently. It must be that its will was damaged. Look, in this 6 shadow killing formation, 5 super large mechanical secret treasures were chopped apart without any resistance under Luo Feng's blade. It's obvious that the leader has lost the ability to resist. At the city lord's mansion, the heads of the 5 major families were watching with their blood boiling. Mo Lixiao even described the key point: if the fight is normal, the heart demon kite and the 6 shadows killing formation are enough to entangle Luo, her divine lord. But in the battle of wills, Luo, her divine lord's will is obviously superior, and the heart demon kite can only exert 30% to 40% of its strength. The 6 shadows killing formation has lost its ability to resist. With such a huge advantage in willpower, the will of Lord Luo must have reached the peak level of chaos. This news must be reported to the Marquis immediately. The eternal true God has the will of the peak of chaos. The elite eternal true gods of the 2 ancient countries are no more than this. They just felt that in this battle, their hopes of victory were growing. Luo, his sword cuts the body as well as the will. In the Yangfeng Hall, Di Chuyu watched the battle scene from afar. He had already broken through to the Chaos Realm, so he could naturally see more clearly at close range. But the advantage is not obvious. It's normal for the heart demon kite to escape. After all, it is one of the secret treasures of the Heart Shadow sect. But one of the 6 shadow killing array escaped. Emperor Chuyu asked himself, at the eternal true God stage, if he took action, no one in the 6 shadow killing formation would be able to escape. I guess that Lord Jujiang and Lord Liu Yin have also sent their divine avatars to the vicinity of Huyang City, and they may have spied on this battle. The deputy city lord laughed. Lord Liu Yin must be a little anxious at the moment. As soon as Luo Feng put away the 5 super-large mechanical secret treasures, the heart demon kite and another super-large mechanical secret treasure immediately fled away. Call. A simple and honest figure shuttled through the void and was already close. It was Morosa. Master, I have completed all the tasks you assigned to me. Morosa said excitedly. They also killed some eternal true gods from the Heart Shadow sect. They were cruel and brutal, and slaughtered people wantonly. I know you, Master, don't like them. Very good. Luo Feng praised. Morosa was delighted to hear the praise. Luo Feng suddenly looked up into the distance and saw a huge and mighty formation covering half of the sky and already looming over him. The invisible might made Luo Feng feel a little frightened. What a powerful killing array! Luo Feng said. A killing array of destruction. Morosa also watched with excitement. After all, he was already in the Chaos Realm, and had a deep understanding of the origin of destruction. He could sense the many mysteries of this terrifying array at a glance. The creator of the formation should be the God King who founded the Heart Shadow sect. His realm is indeed much higher than mine. Morosa observed carefully. He perfectly integrated the 36 destructive moves into a formation, and even used the formation diagram to allow the 360 eternal true gods to form a formation. Awesome. Too awesome. If they fight on their own, even 3,000 eternal true gods will not be able to defeat this killing array. Master, once we are trapped in this killing array, if we want to rush out, we will have to reveal some abnormal strength. Morosa transmitted his thoughts. Of course, this formation also has obvious shortcomings. The entire formation cannot travel through the void. It is difficult for this group of eternal true gods to use the formation diagram to perform such a formation. Once they travel through the void, the formation will definitely collapse. If the entire formation can travel through the void to hunt down the enemy, there will be no way to escape. Luo Feng transmitted his voice. Xinjiang has not yet created such a terrifying formation. A group of enemies appeared through the void. When they appeared, the formation had already covered a vast area, and there was indeed no escape. Looking at the entire origin continent, it is extremely difficult for the eternal true gods to set up such a formation. In the entire Yu Kingdom and Shi Kingdom, no one has ever heard of such a powerful killing formation. Boom! The mighty formation covered half of the sky and quickly enveloped them. The 360 Eternals in the formation were filled with anger and unwillingness. If Elder Xinyan and the others can trap Luo He and keep him busy for a while, our great destruction array will be able to completely cover Luo He and kill him once and for all. Now, there is no way he would be so stupid as to let himself be trapped by the formation. The group of eternal true God disciples of Xinjiang sect are all very clear about this. I saw Luo Feng in the distance suddenly swinging his sword. 3 consecutive slashes. The first blade was dazzling and bright, cutting through the void, leaving a dark crack. This dazzling blade naturally fell into the vast formation. This blade was called Refining the Heart, and it also cut the will of the soul. However, the 360 eternal true gods used the formation diagram to unite their minds and wills. Although they felt the pain in their souls after being stabbed, they were still able to endure it and perfectly maintain the formation. The second sword, the sword light, swept through the endless chaos, and under the stirring of the chaos, many two-color vortices naturally appeared. This sword that swept through the chaos was mighty and powerful, and it chopped on the great formation, causing the entire formation to tremble slightly. The third knife was silent and disappeared completely when it was swung. When it appeared again, it had already chopped down one of the eternal true gods in the formation. The eternal true god was a little horrified, and the light of the formation on his body flowed, and he forcibly blocked Luo Feng's terrifying sneak attack. 3 sword strikes were used, and the entire formation was able to withstand it. The frontal attack, the mental attack, the individuals who set up the formation, there are no flaws. It is worthy of being the strongest killing formation of the Heart Shadow sect. Awesome! Luo Feng looked at the formation coming and immediately sent a telepathic message, "Morosa, let's go." Okay. Morosa nodded. The two of them instantly traveled through the void, forcibly broke through the space blockade, passed through the dark formation in the sky, and left the range of Yangcheng. The vast destruction array also stopped, and the 360 disciples of the eternal true God standing on the illusory array diagram were also quite helpless. They had expected all this. The failure of Elder Xinyan and his men to entangle Luo He meant that this plan had mostly failed. Unless Luo He was arrogant enough to take the initiative to enter the array. He escaped. The leader of Xinjiang sect and the 18 elders gathered together. They looked at the battle scene that appeared in the sect's formation. The blind elder frowned and said, "Luo His spiritual will has reached the peak level of chaos. In addition, his realm accumulation is extremely deep. There is no flaw in him at all. My Xinjiang sect alone cannot stop him. Under the siege of the Heart Shadow sect, no eternal true God can stop them, but if the most terrifying eternal true God individual really wanted to escape, the Xinjiang sect would not be completely confident that he could escape." The strength displayed by Luo Feng made the Xinjiang sect helpless. This time, because of Luo He, we lost 6 super-large mechanical secret treasures, and dozens of eternal true gods died. The elders were quite discouraged. No need to think about it. The leader of Xinjiang sect said, "Our enemy is not him, but the army of Lord Jujiang. When the army goes to war, it will be a mighty fight, relying on frontal hard power. If all our formations explode at the same time, he can only flee far away. Moreover, he is an idle practitioner and his hiring price is extremely high. Marquis Jujiang may not be willing to hire him," said the Xinjiang sect master. "Right. Luo He, give us 200 million cosmic sands. Even if it's cheaper for Jujiang Hu, it's probably still a very high price. He probably won't show up on the battlefield. These elders really don't want to meet this Lord Luohe on the battlefield." The leader of Xinjiang sect ordered, "Don't think too much, just follow the original plan and plunder the entire Yangcheng as soon as possible." The number of eternal true gods and void true gods in Huyang City was very large. Luo Feng and Morosa could only save a few of them and there was nothing they could do. It took a joint effort to save 9 weapon refining shops. If time drags on, the Heart Shadow sect will probably set up multiple traps, such as moving many void true gods into a certain killing array. Luo Feng and Morosa accidentally entered it, and it would be very troublesome to get out. Although Luo Feng was willing to save some lives, the prerequisite was to ensure his own safety. Some of the eternal true gods in the city also saw the conflict between Luo Feng and the Heart Shadow sect. If we have the strength of Lord Luoha, what does Xinjiang sect have to do with us? Our Zhu family is still too weak. Zhu watched this scene from afar. The Zhu family had more than 20 eternal true gods, both openly and covertly, and was the strongest family in Yangcheng. But in front of the Xinjiang gate, only 2 eternal true gods, Zhu Yu and Zhu Fuqing, remained in the city, trying to find ways to protect the many ethnic groups. Zhu Yu took a step and left quietly. His appearance had changed a lot at this moment, and his aura only remained at the ordinary true god stage. In terms of saving his life and hiding his aura, Zhu Yu was the strongest one in the family. Outside the city, a figure wearing dark red armor and emitting a dark aura looked at Yangcheng from afar. His eyes were like 2 burning blood-red flames. Luo, his strength is stronger than I expected. I didn't expect his mind and will to be so strong. Liu Yinhu was very calm. Even though he was just an incarnation of divine power, his realm was too high. His eyes seemed to be integrated into the dark side of the world, and he naturally observed everything in the city. In the city, he could observe most of the places except for some forbidden areas by formations and areas of exclusion. One Luo, he cannot change the situation of the war. The Xinjiang sect has only revealed part of its strength this time. Under the pressure of a killing formation, Luo he can only escape. Marquis Liu Yin was looking forward to it. On the front battlefield, thousands of eternal true gods of the Xinjiang sect will burst out together, and many formations will cooperate. What can Marquis Jujiang do to stop the Xinjiang sect from taking action? It's worth it to sacrifice a large city in the future fiefdom. Marquis Jujiang, do you have the courage to go down in person? Marquis Liu Yin's eyes were cold. The fight for fiefdom is no ordinary fight. The end result will be a fight of life and death. Luo Feng and Morosa had just arrived at a wilderness outside the city when they saw a familiar white-haired young man appear in front of them. Lord Luoha. The white-haired young man smiled and said, "We meet again." Luo Feng naturally knew the other person. The person who visited him last time on behalf of Lord Jujiang was this Jiang Yuyo, who was also Commander Jiang, one of the 4 personal guards under Lord Jujiang. Luo Feng said, "My lord wants to see the Lord God." The white-haired young man smiled and said, "Lord God, are you willing to go with me?" "Don't worry, my lord is in the military camp not far away." Luo Feng was surprised. The Marquis is here. It is the incarnation of the Marquis's divine power. Jiang Yuyo explained. "Please lead the way." Luo Feng immediately took Morosa and followed Jiang Yuyo through the void. After traveling through the void for only more than 10 times, they came to a small town floating on the surface of the lake. This small town only covers an area of tens of billions of kilometers, or it would be more appropriate to call it a large cave residence. Jiang Yuyo brought Luo Feng and Morosa into the small town. In a pavilion, Marquis Jujiang was already sitting there, drinking and waiting. "My lord, the Lord Luoha has brought his servants here." Jiang Yuyo, Luo Feng, and Morosa entered the pavilion together. It was the first time that Luo Feng met Lord Jujiang. Lord Jujiang was wearing loose robes and had silver hair. Every strand of his hair reflected the endless void. His appearance could be described as handsome. If Liu Yin, who carries blood and fire, darkness and disaster, heavy and terrible, then Jujiang, who is like a traveler walking between heaven and earth. Luo He. Jujiang, who looked at Luo Feng with a smile, "Please sit down." Luo Feng was quite surprised to hear the word "please." This Lord Jujiang didn't have the airs of a Chaos Realm person at all. Luo Feng took a seat immediately, while Morosa stood aside with a loyal look. "You, my servant Morosa, should also sit down." Lord Jujiang said, "You don't need to be too concerned with me." "Thank you, Lord Marquis." Luo Feng said. Morosa then took a seat at the side, still abiding by the rules. I just witnessed the battle between Lord Luo He and the Heart Shadow sect. Lord Jujiang sighed, in terms of strength, I'm afraid there is no eternal true God in the entire Yu kingdom who can compare with you, Luo He. One-on-one, suppressing the heart demon kite controlled by the Elder of the Heart Eyes. Luo Feng is indeed the only one who can become the eternal true God of the entire Yu kingdom. Your Excellency is too kind. Luo Feng said. The eternal true God has the will of the peak level of chaos, which is amazing. Jujiang Hu sighed, it's not an exaggeration at all. In the entire Yu kingdom, there is no other eternal true God who can do this except you. Luo Feng listened and stopped being modest. No wonder you dare to ask for a hiring price of 100 million cosmic sands. You are indeed strong enough. Jujiang Hu looked at Luo Feng with a smile. I am willing to pay 100 million cosmic sands and invite you to join my army to help me resist the invasion of Liu Yinhu's army. I wonder if you are willing to accept it. This video will end here.